4 years of seeking justice for Breonna Taylor amid a history of abuse, of power, institutional harms with our Louisville Metro Police Department. We recognize that Breonna Taylor and Kenneth Walker were not the only victims of police abuse, corruption of power, and we honor all of those whose stories we will never hear, who have been buried, who have died, who have worked within the system, who have left, who have quit, who continue to sue and seek justice in every way possible. I am honored to be joined by the family of Breonna Taylor and a host of colleagues and people who are fighting for justice in every way that they can, through our educational system, through our metro government, through their community, through their faith, through everything. It takes all of us working together. I am also not blind that since we announced that we were doing this months ago, we didn't get a lot of response, except from the community. That's been very positive. But we also see that we started something. We saw an earlier announcement that Senator Rand Paul and Congressman Morgan McGarvey are reintroducing at the federal level, and Bianca will talk about that. But Amber Duke with ACLU, but they're reintroducing legislation that was previously filed. We saw our mayor's administration, Mayor Greenberg, who I met with 2 days ago with my team. They wanted to meet with me. He will not be here, but wanted to talk to me about the things that the Louisville Metro government has been doing and what his administration has been doing. I said that I hope that you're not attending intentionally and that you will be here to talk to the community. We're not going to beat you up here. We just want answers and we want justice. I do want to say we did have that meeting. He gave some updates, which we will include later. This is an emotional day for me for so many reasons. My dear friend Sam DuBose was killed by the University of Cincinnati police. His birthday was yesterday, March 12th. He was killed in 2015. The father of my daughter, his birthday is today. He was killed through gun violence in Cincinnati, Ohio as well. I didn't ask to be who I needed to be at what we coined Injustice Square. I was asked to show up because our young people I wanted to make sure that they had a resource, that no one else will die while seeking justice for Breonna Taylor. We've had now 5 subsequent deaths as it connects to Breonna Taylor. Tyler Gerth, David McAtee, Travis Najdi, Chris Wales, Chris Smith, and now most recently, Larry Walker. I wouldn't have met any of them if it wasn't for what happened on March 13, 2020. And I would love for them to be in the audience with you today. So keeping the fire of accountability is a way to recognize a lifetime of trauma and abuse, abuse of poverty, abuse of power and corruption that has been inflicted upon the Louisville community, the state of Kentucky, and beyond. There is no way to include all the victims of this history of police practices in our beautiful city. Some of those victims remain nameless. Some have been silenced by the clock, lack of money and legal resources, and a lack of ongoing support it takes to keep going. Some have been buried and some formerly and currently work within the Louisville Metro Police Department. I hate that on March 13, 2020, Breonna Taylor and Kenneth Walker became the perfect victims that represent the many harms caused by our Louisville Metro Police Department. Yes. I have also invited them to be here. I also invited the Inspector General's office to be here. He is out of town. He said he may send the representative, and he did. Thank you. 4 years of protests, court proceedings, and various community organizing has shown your community's commitment to justice. This is what you see in this room. We are committed to justice. We're not anti-police as much as we are anti-corruption and violence. been without extreme cost to many of us. Many of us lost family, we lost the ability to go home, we lost our jobs, we lost our homes, we went into debt, we suffered, our campaigns, our promotions, all of those things have been tied. When I was even getting dressed today, I thought about what t-shirt to wear. You know, while we were there seeking justice for Breonna Taylor, I gathered hundreds of t-shirts. I'm thankful for Happy Dance quilting because those have been made into a quilt for me. But even as I got dressed, I thought, do I put on the No More, No Knock Warrant t-shirt? Do I put on the Injustice Square t-shirt? Do I put on the faith community? Do I put on the white coats who came out there with us, Doctors Against Police Abuse? Do I represent the many lawyers who stood in the gaps? Over 120 lawyers gave their free legal services for over 1,000 protest arrests. Unprecedented. Protesters arrested in 2020 still have felony charges. When I met with the mayor, he said, I thought all the protest charges were done with. They're not. That tells you some people are not paying close attention. Right. That's right. We said when we started this is a long game. Because of the institution of policing, it is able to outlive us, able to thrive, able to be perpetuated again and again. And even while under investigation from the DOJ, we have people here who were still abused, even while the DOJ was investigating. The DOJ, not a community activist group, has proved that LMPD has engaged in severely racist and problematic practices from its inception until its present day. We have someone that's going to speak on the history of policing and help write the report that the administration tried to bury. But now, because of what you all are doing and you showing up, they have it now on the police website. That didn't happen before. As we reflect on the last 4 years, we must always say Breonna Taylor's name. Uplift those whose lives were cut down too soon. Acknowledge the sacrifice of our dedicated community members and celebrate the victories we have won. It has not been all doom and gloom. I see April Hearn, who has just come in. She just released a book, and she will be speaking about that. I see Community Control Now, who are working on other options to provide a community response to the protection that we need. We won things like no knock search warrants on the local level. We had people fighting for it on the state level. And now we have people in this room that are fighting for it on a federal level. We, together, stopped a judge from being reelected who we said Mary Shaw started it all. Mary Shaw was replaced because she did not give Breonna Taylor or Kenneth Walker their due diligence. And we know that if you sign 5 or 7 warrants in 12 minutes, you have not read those numbers. More people and groups can be named who are out here taking action. We have made sure that Daniel Cameron did not get a promotion from his lack of action. What you see are residents and citizens, and I want to end with my remarks here to tell you that if it was not for our unhoused community, we would not be able to have held the longest civil unrest protest that this region and this city has ever seen. Our unhoused community helped us do that. And this council, my colleague, Councilman Ja'Cory Arthur, helped fight to make sure for the first time in Louisville's history, we've seen more monies go towards affordable housing, services, and care and harm reduction than ever in our city budget. We see the appointment of an inspector general who has not had an easy time getting the information he needs. But the mayor affirmed with me 2 days ago that they are working on that relationship to make sure that the inspector general gets what he needs. And I'll let his representative speak on that. We see a civilian review accountability board that people need to know. This isn't the first time. The Kentucky Alliance Against Racism and Political Repression and other groups worked for that over 20 years ago before merger, and it was passed by the old Board of Aldermen. Many of them, you'll see pictures if you look around in this city hall. But it was sunset when the new administration came in. And for over 20 years, it lied dormant, but it was needed. And we wouldn't be here if it was in place. I am proud that there's so many things happening, from Feed Louisville to the Arthur Street Hotel to Hope Village to all of these things that have come out of our protest at what was called Hot Dog Square, which we turned into Injustice Square. Now there is a historical marker that the police are upset about, but there should be a monument for EMTs like Breonna Taylor.
That's right.
Her co-workers came there many times to be with us in the square. There is a monument for the police, there is a monument for our fire, and there is not one for EMTs who helped save us and helped carry us through COVID-19. So, I tried to bring notes because I feel so passionate about this. I think that it's important that as we continue to move forward, that you all keep the fire of accountability lit in every option that you have. I'm not asking you to give up your jobs, but I'm asking you to use your role to be a resource to an ongoing movement to correct and right the many wrongs. We cannot build community and police relationships if people don't want to be honest and be held accountable. The mayor said, I did apologize. If you look up these 2 interviews I did, I gave an apology. That's not enough. So because of that, I am working on a resolution that honors the People's Consent Decree that was put together with many organizations and hundreds of people who have signed our petition, which is linked, and we are continuing to do that work. I'm working with my colleague, Councilman Jacory Arthur. Before he leaves, we want to get this resolution passed as a formal recognition, a statement of values that we are against LMPD's corruption and violence and ongoing power and control of our city. Absolutely. I want to first invite Bianca here. She is the aunt of Breonna Taylor. After Bianca, I'm asking Amber Duke with the ACLU of Kentucky to speak. And then I'm going to ask Dr. Kate Fossil to speak. And I will announce the next speakers after them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you pretty much summed it up. First and foremost, thank you all for your continuous support for our family. Today, 4 years ago, Tamika Palmer lost a daughter. I lost a niece. We lost a grandchild. We lost pretty much the glue to the family. She was everything in one. And from day one, this is exactly what we've been asking for. The community to come together and help us fight. Because nobody believed us March 13th. It was a horrible feeling to go home. And people believed the first thing that they saw on the news, that she was a trap queen. She was caught up. I don't know what it was, but it was just so hurtful. And, you know, to see that baby grow up from, you know, she was blossoming, she was thriving. Breonna worked 2 jobs. She had her own everything. And it was snatched away by just people who tried to take the law into their own hands. And it's not right. But today is growth. This is growth. And Shamika, come up here, Shamika, I'm sorry. But if it wasn't for this woman right here, hey. Sacrifices, y'all. All I can say is she is a walking sacrifice. And for her to still be out here it just shows growth and passion. She was out there every day, the book is probably too long for her to write. Like, and she encouraged me to do better, and not give up. And just thank you for continuing to organize, and because you know what this community needs. You've been calling everybody out from day one, and you've been taking every punch, rock, glass that's been thrown at you. And yet you still here. And I just want to say we're proud of you and thank you. This is the change we need to see, you all. I'm not going to come up here and call out our governors, our mayors, because there's a lot of things we all could have did different. It's a lot of things we all could have changed. But 4 years, it's a new start. Breonna ain't never coming back. We ain't gonna never see that child again. It hurts. Just think how her mom feel, how we feel today. But this is uplifting. This gonna keep us going. And remember, justice for Breonna Taylor is a movement. Yeah. I keep telling y'all that. These little victories, take these little victories and keep going. Yeah. There's no big I's and little U's in this movement. That's right, that's right. My niece deserves to be respected, honored. Yeah. Her legacy, and it's not the time for that. But I appreciate y'all. The Breonna Taylor family Tamika Palmer appreciates y'all. It's hard I know I've been her voice, but that's just me. She won't, I've been like that, I'm little sister, I'm little big sister. But at the end of the day, this is hard. This is like one of the hardest battles no one ever should have to go through. For someone to be taken by someone that's supposed to serve and protect you. Who the hell do you call when the police kills your baby? Come on, we have to do better. We have to push this legislation for her. And that's what it's about. Tamika Palmer is working with Republicans. Come on now. Yeah. All right. If she can stand up next to Red Paul, so can we. Yes. We can put our differences aside and really fight for what we need in this community. And if we leave here today, remember that our kids are watching. We have, our little ones in our family have to experience this tragedy firsthand. They have to still go to school. They don't know how to articulate their expressions. They learn from us. So we have to keep that in mind. JCPS, come on. What are we doing here? Had one of the teachers was keeping this state afloat. And we can't even get the education and the tools we need in this school system. Come on, we can't even get them to school safe. Are you kidding me? Come on, we have to do better. It's time for us to make sacrifices and come together. Please, I'm begging you. But I'm going to leave on that note. Thank you. Please continue to support Breonna Taylor.
All right, I need you all to know you're going to hear things that I ask people to be unscripted and to bring the unadulterated truth. Some of you might not like some of the things that are heard, but I asked you to listen. I did not plan on crying. I wish I'd have told them don't make me cry. But so I just want you to know that as you hear these speakers, hear what they're talking about here and listen to the message. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Amber Duke. I'm the Executive Director of the ACLU of Kentucky, and thank you, Shamika, for bringing us all together today. I think my heart is really full today after hearing Bianca, almost in tears, but I think it's so meaningful to be having this conversation in this space today, in this building, talking about justice, talking about healing, And I also don't want us to forget the joy, because when I think about all the videos of Breonna, I think about the laughter, I think about her dimples, I think about, all of the joy that was happening at Injustice Square. People being together, people finding meaning and working together. And I'm sad that we're here 4 years later, that we haven't found justice, that there is still so much to do. But it warms my heart that we're still together and doing it together, and that we're also finding the joy in that. I talked to Shamika for a long time last night, because I was like, Shamika, what do you want me to talk about? There's so many different things I can talk about. So I'm going to talk a little bit about policy, a little bit about ongoing lawsuits, about accountability, and also the Department of Justice dissent decree. As has been mentioned earlier, I had the honor of Monday of being with Bianca, Congressman McGarvey, Senator Rand Paul, for the announcement of the Justice for Breonna Taylor Act, which is a ban on no-knock warrants at the federal level. Katora here, and I'm not sure if she's here today or in the room, but when she was at the ACLU of Kentucky, she really led the effort, as folks know, for no more no-knocks here in Metro Louisville, and we had a unanimous, and we thought it was so important as the ACLU. There was a period of time where we had the votes, and it was like, okay, Louisville is going to ban no-knock warrants, and it was so important to us to work to make sure that that vote was a unanimous vote, because we said Louisville needs to send a message to the world that these legalized raids of homes are dangerous, they're deadly on both sides of the door.
Yes.
There's no place for them in law enforcement. There's absolutely no place. And so no-knock warrants were banned in Louisville, and so that's a victory that we should continue to celebrate. No-knock warrants have been severely restricted, not banned, but severely restricted at the state level, and that is something that we should celebrate. And there is this effort that started, Senator Rand Paul filed legislation in 2020 that did not move, and here we are 4 years later. Congressman McGarvey is filing legislation to ban no-knock warrants at the federal level. It's a really simple piece of legislation, which is good, because if you all know how Congress works, if it's complicated, it's very hard to get done. But it's a simple piece of legislation that essentially says if you get federal money for your agency, and we know how federal money flows and funds our police agencies around the country, but it says if you receive federal dollars, then there's a ban on no-knock warrants. You can't do them. So it's a simple and powerful piece of legislation that we hope to see move. Senator Cory Booker has recently signed on as a co-sponsor of that legislation, so there are some heavy hitters in Washington behind that, and we as the ACLU of Kentucky, and I know many in this room, support that. I want to talk about the legal aspects of this work. I was shocked to hear the news recently that some felt that everything related to the protest, all the legal matters related, had been resolved. And as many people in this room know, that is not the case. There are several ACLU clients who are here. Our organization filed a lawsuit in the fall of 2020, which is still going on. We have still not gone to trial. We are still working through pretrial motions, demanding that police stop using gas on peaceful protesters, stop using weapons of war against people who are exercising their First Amendment rights. That lawsuit does continue. We are working with the Legal Defense Fund as co-counsel in that case. I hope that it moves forward. Again, this is something that's been filed 4 years ago. We've asked for bans on tear gas at the Metro Council level. We continue just to ask that people's First Amendment rights are respected. And of course, as part of the DOJ report of the evaluation of LMPD, they also found that LMPD has a very long history of violating people's First Amendment rights. And so we'll continue to fight that fight. We talk a lot about accountability and what does accountability look like, and I think that there's another speaker that's going to talk about the People's Dissent Decree, which outlines some of what that looks like. The ACLU is proud to sign on to that. And of course, the process is underway for the Department of Justice Dissent Decree, which is something that's currently being negotiated between the city and the police department. Of course, these negotiations are largely secret at this time because we've been told that a draft of the consent decree cannot be released to the public. And so we know some of the challenges that happen when those sort of negotiations happen in secret. We continue to believe that the people in this room, the people who are closest to the problem, the people who have been victims, the people who have suffered the abuse are the people that have the answers, that should be in the room, that should be at the table, that should be involved. And so I've had conversations with Chief Jackie. She's given me assurances. I hope that those are assurances that are also shared with the larger community, that to the extent that they are able to release information about those negotiations, that they will do so. But at the ACLU, we will continue to call for as much sunlight and as much sunshine on that process for directly impacted people to be involved in those negotiations. And it really is a question of, after all that we've been through, after all that has been uncovered and discovered about horrific abuse that has happened in this community for decades, which of course we already knew about from work from the Kentucky Alliance, from years of them documenting police abuse in this community, for people protesting in the streets and screaming and crying about injustices that were suffered. We already knew before the DOJ came to town what was happening, right? That's right. We now have the DOJ confirming or affirming that a lot of that happened. And so I hope, as we have waited so long in this process, that we come to a resolution soon, that there are accountability measures that will be put in place and be monitored by our federal courts. I hope that whatever negotiation there is, that it is short, because all the evidence is clear. Yep. There shouldn't be a lot of negotiation that has to happen, right? Part of how we move forward and move toward healing is the hope that our police department would acknowledge, accept, apologize, and whatever is in that dissent, decree to move forward, to embrace that, not get caught into the details, not trying to negotiate a way out of reform, but really to embrace it.
Thanks to everything that's been said. I'm Kate Fossil. I'm a historian, and Shamika took us back 4 years, and Amber took us back to 2016 with the DOJ's research. I'm here today to take us back 2 centuries.
Right.
That's right.
Okay.
And so I want to just say a few things about the recent study that I co-authored on the history of institutional harms resulting from policing in Louisville. What we found was not a pretty story, and that's putting it very mildly. That's right. But it is one that must be told and told and told and understood widely if this community is going to make the fundamental changes you've heard about that are necessary for greater public safety for all of us in this community. Our research into public records across 2 centuries revealed a systematic, persistent pattern of discriminatory treatment of Black residents and other marginalized identity groups, both as residents and even as officers serving on the police force. Right. Unlike many police agencies farther south, our city's police force, we found, does not appear to have been established as a slave patrol. But from the earliest policing in the form of the Night Watch in 1806, keeping Blacks in bondage or in inferior positions by imposing harsher penalties for enslaved persons, as well as for free Black residents, than for whites was a central piece of local policing. Emancipation didn't end that disparity in 1865, nor did the post-World War II civil rights movement of the 20th century. Even though the police department hired its first 3 black officers in 1923, for example, they served only in segregated units. It took more than 40 years for black and white officers to be allowed to serve as partners or even to ride together in the same patrol car. The department resisted for decades both community pressure and even the demands of its own black officers for reforms. Well, we found a few through lines that persisted throughout the decades, throughout the centuries, and I'm gonna just talk about 3. One was the kinds of racial discrimination these examples refer to. Another was, which won't surprise you, was a lack of accountability for these kinds of unfairnesses, even on the occasions when they were uncovered and acknowledged. And the third through line, and interestingly, this actually seemed to worsen as the police force modernized in the late 20th century, was a closing of ranks in the face of internal wrongdoing, a real resistance to meaningful outside oversight, what some have called a wall of blue. The scope and severity of the patterns of police misconduct we documented show that not only was Breonna Taylor's brutal killing at the hands of LMPD almost tragically predictable, but unfortunately the denial of any real punishment of those within this web of wrongdoing that led to her death, and the continuation of episodes of police brutality against black Louisvillians since March of 2020 has sadly been predictable as well. Physics tells us that an object in motion tends to remain in motion, and that awful kind of motion has been ongoing. The clear message from our research is that we have a serious, deep-seated problem in our policing that persists across centuries, across personnel changes, across mental health and diversity training, and in spite of millions of dollars in taxpayer money spent settling lawsuits connected to irrefutable police misconduct. Our LMPD history study underscores the findings of the recent DOJ report. We have a whole lot of work to do as a community to root out those patterns of unequal treatment and put an end to the kind of horrendous brutality that took Breonna Taylor's young life so wrongly, so abruptly, so prematurely, as well as the milder but also far more widespread forms of interpersonal violence and disrespect that many, many, many black and brown Louisvillians have for too long known as a way of life here. Social change almost never happens without collective pressure, which we've been hearing about today. On this terrible anniversary, I hope we can collectively commit to making this a safer community for us all. I'm honored to stand here alongside the Palmer Taylor family, alongside Councilwoman Parrish Wright, and these other incredible activists who have pushed so hard for police accountability and for wider social justice. I want to thank my co-authors, Dr. Felicia Jamison and Dr. Cindy Saar, and to our 3 incredible student assistants, Maya, Ethan, and Isabella. I want to encourage all of you to read the report, which you can easily access online. And finally, I'd like to say these comments are my own as a historian of 25 years duration of Louisville and as a co-author of this report. They do not represent the views of either Louisville Metro, which commissioned our research, nor of the University of Louisville, my employer of many years. And thank you.
The history of policing report and all of our press sends, and is it back on the university site?
No, I'm not sure, honestly. It's been up, it's been down.
You can go to the Ann Gray Institute of Social Justice Research at Louisville. There is a website. It was up there and it was taken down as a courtesy by former Deputy Mayor Barbara Sexton Smith. and we have asked for it to be put back up there. The authors did not know about that. So Kate is working with the University of Louisville to get that put back up there. And since then, the mayor's office, as I said earlier, has added it to the Louisville site. So you can find it there as well. And you can find it on my pages and social media pinned and shared. All right, I want to ask, the next three speakers are former State Representative Attica Scott, who is representing Forward Justice Action Network. I would ask Shrita Walden, who is representing Kentucky Harm Reduction Coalition. And you need to hear from, I was wrongfully arrested, but we have victims that are Black men who were targeted over and over again through the racial justice protests. So I'm going to ask one of them to come up before I introduce the other set of people, and that is Dee Garrett. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to start by saying, Dee, I see you, and I know you haven't gotten justice yet from the violence that LMPD inflicted upon you. I want you to know you are seen. Councilwoman Parrish Wright, thank you for listening to us when we asked you to file this resolution to put the people's voice into the consent decree. This is why you were elected.
That's right.
And I hope you heard her when she said that the History of Policing report was taken off of the university's website for the administration.
Right.
This is why we as Black folks feel like you don't have a chance
That's right.
in this city. The cover-ups that happen, the way that whiteness is protected.
There you go.
It's ridiculous. I'm Attica Scott. I'm a voting rights advocate, a democracy leader, and director of special projects at Forward Justice Action Network. FJN is a 501c4 organization that serves as a strategic partner for coalitions and networks and nonprofits that are at the forefront of movements that are organizing for a more equitable, just, and free U.S. South.
That's right. We are the South.
And as the South goes, so goes the nation. I'm sick of the shenanigans at local and state government levels. We had a chance to fully ban no-knock warrants. Fully ban no-knock warrants with Breonna's law. But because of the games that are played in Frankfurt, that didn't happen for us. We did not receive justice. Not for real. Not when you can still kick in somebody's door, sometimes in certain situations. Every situation will be justified.
Right.
It's been 4 years since many of us put our lives on the line for justice and were treated like trash in the process. It's been a year since the Department of Justice released its findings and recommendations on the Louisville Metro Government and Louisville Metro Police Department. In so many ways, our uprisings in 2020 sparked discussions about politics and racism and white supremacy. In so many ways, our uprisings exposed what we all knew was not under the surface, but right there in front of us in the city of Louisville. And in so many ways, we're falling back to where we were pre-2020. But we can shift the tide.
That's right.
We can shift that tide together. We can make it clear that we refuse and we reject Mayor Greenberg keeping secret the consent decree from us. And instead, we can support what Councilwoman Parrish Wright is doing with this resolution that was called on by the people's consent decree, many of us in this room. And what we are asking for is public acknowledgement of the toxic culture within LMPD. Y'all know it's there, say it. We want community members to be a part at every step of creating the consent decree. This is about we, the people. We want clear timelines for the consent decree process. We should not get one response from DOJ and another from the mayor's administration. We want no additional money from LMPD. I know some of y'all gonna be at their wellness center today celebrating that new wellness center. They could have got memberships to the Y. And we could have gotten services. Instead, we need you to invest in housing, public transportation, community ministries, restorative justice Louisville, and all the needs we've been crying for pre-2020.
That's right.
We want the release of all of the officers, supervisors, and judges that were referred to in the DOJ report. We haven't forgotten. It wasn't only revolutionary, Shaw. She was the one we came for, and there are many more who are up next.
That's right.
We want community observers for the FOP contract negotiations. Stop negotiating in secret. We want civilian review and accountability board subpoena power. And we want all of the remaining charges dropped against the protesters. So stop playing with people's lives because we refuse to go along to get along. In 2020, during my second term in office, along with Councilwoman Parrish Wright, my daughter and I were unjustly arrested while we were using our First Amendment rights to protest police violence. It was powerful to be at Injustice Square Park nearly every day and witness people who only wanted justice. That was it, justice. We are at a crossroads, Louisville. This is the crossroads. This is it right here. We can either choose to go forward together and build a beloved community, or we're gonna fall right back to where we were before we were protesting. Generations from now, people will ask, did you take action or did you sit on the sidelines? Were you silent because you wanted to be politically safe? Or did you speak up because it was expedient and it was right and it was just? So we're going to keep doing our work. We're going to keep fighting to keep this city from building a new multi-million-dollar jail. Many of us are going to continue to mentor that next generation that is asking of us and begging of us to be different and to do better. And if you read the history of policing report in Louisville, or any report really on policing in this country, you know that it grew out of colonization. You know that it grew out of slavery. You know that it grew out of white supremacy.
That's right.
So it's time for us to reject it. To reject it all and to say that we are going to build something else. We're going to build something better. Because we can take care of community. And we will take care of community. So I stand here on behalf of David McAtee, Shelby Lanier, Manfred Reed, James Groves, Adrian Reynolds, Desmond Rudolph, Rodney Abernathy, Clifford Lewis, Antoine Bryant, Marshall Marbley, James Taylor, Michael Newby, Larry Knowles, Breonna Taylor, Dane Mayhew, and far too many more.
My name is Sharita Walden, and I'm the Executive Director for Kentucky Harm Reduction Coalition. You understand what our organization does based on the title. So it's not just syringes. Harm reduction is a strategy to reduce the risk of harms that substances, injustices to our community, all the things. So just wanted to make that clear. I'm tired of the gaslighting, okay? I gotta get to it. We know the history. Thank you, former Representative Attica Scott, and thank you for the historian, but we know it. Growing up in a household where my stepfather was a Black Panther Party member, and both parents became Chicago police officers, detectives, homicide and violent crimes. A lot of people get confused. They're like, Black Panther Party and police don't match. In fact, it actually does. The Black Panther Party believed in community. And that if we are going to protect and serve our community, we need to be a part of the systems, hence why I'm running for state rep in District 44. We need to be in the systems to effectively change. I'm an advocate for humanity. And if we're looking for accountability, it's not just involving the people in this room. We can't keep talking around the fact that I have officers and officers with rank who continue to tell me in my face, we want to see change too. but you don't do it. And see, I'm one of them people that get into trouble because I'm going to point out the conflict in what you're saying. I'm gonna point out the fact that you're telling me you wanna do something different, but you won't support the changes. So if you wanna do something different, then be a part of the change, officers. So for the officers, and I want you to see me, because I know you're out there watching. The officers who told me, and I'm not gonna call you out yet, because I got your card, because I wanna see you, I wanna give you an opportunity. Okay, I want to give you an opportunity to change. And the way that works is that when you see something, you do something.
That's right.
Okay? What that looks like is that you might get into a little good trouble in your gang. See, the thing, law enforcement and policing is similar to gangs. Back to Blue, GD folks. I mean, tell me the similarities. So if you want to see change, you're going to have to speak up and say, hey, we don't operate like that anymore. When you see someone doing something, your fellow man, and you know you guys are trying to improve connections and relationships in your communities, then you're going to have to speak up. And for my people that don't look like me that are in this room, do what I do. When I see a police car stopping someone of color, I pull over.
Yes.
I stop to check it out. I look, I see. I'm a harm reductionist, and in fact, you all can be harm reductionists too. You're reducing the harm in your community. Here, I have now honored you as a harm reductionist. Everybody in this room is a harm reductionist. Get out your car. Hey, is there any way that I can assist? And I've done it. And I found connection there. We all can do that. Change has to be active.
That's right.
We have to be a part of that. We have to encourage each other to speak up and do it. It is not easy. In fact, it is very uncomfortable. It is extremely difficult, but it's worth it. I said, I grew up in a household with officers who actually do think like officers at times. And I have to have difficult conversations with them. I had a difficult conversation with them about Breonna Taylor.
Turn right before security.
They're my parents. And I had to do what I would do with any other officer. And say, hey, I need you to slow down and listen to what happened. We don't get to back away and say, oh, they're not going to change, so I'm not going to challenge them. No, if I can do it in my household, I can do it. I'm working on my language today. I can do it. I can do it with the people in the community. And if you are about safety, then be about it. Are you reducing harm from the officers who want to change? What you're doing, is it in fact reducing harm to the communities that you say you are trying to provide support and safety to?
That's right.
Or are you increasing harm? I was a little girl who grew up hearing people say, I want to be a firefighter, a police officer, or a paramedic. You don't hear kids say that anymore. They don't want to be a part of the helping community, because that's what I was taught. These are the helpers. We know where policing came from. I told you where I grew up in. I'm not confused. I'm not confused. I know the history of law enforcement. But the helpers in the community, that's what we want to be now. You don't hear kids talking about that. They don't want to touch it. They're afraid. I asked my son, who is here today, 17, he don't want to be no police. That's scary. Why? Exactly. Abuse of power is a thing. Don't think I had it easy. Parents being police officers, I got it hard. I had police officers doing extra things with me. I never even talked about that. But seeing that my brother is gonna come up here and talk about it, I've had targeting happen because my parents were officers and they rose to rank as detectives. So I had the bullying happening to me. Unethical stops. Being ticketed while I'm sitting at the meter. Oh, you sitting there parked. So change. Accountability. You can't do it on the outside. We can't talk about accountability in here and walk out and everybody clap their hands and say, yeah, that was a great one. We cannot do any more performative justice, folks, okay? Stop performing. It's over with. We're not playing no more, all right? If you want to do something different, you're gonna have to act differently. I got youth underneath me, and when I move into the ancestor realm, because I'm gonna be a dope ancestor one day. When I move into the ancestorhood, I'm gonna protect my kids on that side. But I'll be damned if I leave them in this. This is a mess, and I'm terrified. We got to do something different. Do better, Louisville. I'm here to help them. All right?
Good morning. My name is Albert Baird. I'm co-founder of X-Hate. First off, I just want to give an honor to God. Ms. Shamika, Breeway, thank you for Ms. Shamika. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. Sorry if I get emotional.
It's all right.
I first want to say sorry to Breeway. Sorry to my fiance, Shy. Because my trauma and what I've been through here in Louisville has really affected me. I got PTSD now. And if you don't know what PTSD is, man, it's rough to have. But when I first came to Injustice Square, Miss Shamika was one of the first people I met. See, a lot of people just know D. Garrett from being on the news, my past. But a lot of people don't know that after I got out of prison in 2014, I became a student at Kentucky Christian University, where I was a ministry major. And when this stuff happened to Breonna Taylor, no offense when I say this, but being a black athlete at an all-Christian white school, imagine the conversations that was happening at this school to the point that I didn't want to be a minister no more. Hearing professors say that Breonna Taylor was a drug dealer. Hearing professors say, D, you're going to go down there and be with BLM. Do you know what they stand for? But Breonna Taylor situation changed the world. It changed my world. As I was watching the news, getting ready for football practice, I broke down and I cried on the couch. I called some organizers, went to Cincinnati, and I started protesting. I remember the first protest of me being in Cincinnati. It was a lady that was marching with us, and she was in a walker. And the police out of nowhere shot her up with rubber bullets and tear gassed her. And I ran to her aid. I said, hey, how may I help you? And with tears in her eyes, she was like, I'm all right. I'm just going to keep going. I'm okay. I'm okay. Just you keep going. You keep going. That's when God really truly put on my heart to come to Louisville. And I remember the first day I showed up in Louisville with the cross. I parked my truck and I pulled up and jumped out my truck. And the police in Breeway was going at it. It changed my life forever. Because for, I think, 18 months, I used to drive. Well, before I moved here, I used to drive from Cincinnati to Louisville, and Miss Shamika used to always help out with gas cards, hotels, anything, because I used to sleep outside at 6th and Jefferson. But this moment that really changed my life is the day that Aaron Embers punched me on my face 4 times. And Officer Aaron Embers. And not only Aaron Embers, but other LMPD officers, the court system, a judge by the name of David Bowles was trying to hide and keep me locked up to try to cover up the wrongdoing that happened. I felt like I was being silenced. And that PTSD makes you turn on people that really love you. Because when you feel and you see an LMPD officer or officers here in Louisville put their hands on you, lie on you, put fake charges on you, and then the court system is behind them, helping them by putting fake charges on you, putting you on house arrest, and it just kept going. So I had collective trauma. Not did it just affect me, it affected my baby. Me being followed from Greenway all the way down to the projects, Park Hill projects, and my baby tapping me saying, "Daddy, the police is behind us." I seen it, but I was hoping she didn't see it. My baby coming to me saying, "Daddy, I'm afraid the police is gonna kill you." My baby screaming at night because she's having nightmares. Because somehow somebody showed her the video of what happened to me. But do you know that God always shows up in the midst of the storm?
That's right.
See, I had a lot of anger in me against LMPD and the city of Louisville, just how they allow people to just slander my name. But my baby came to me, and I remember sitting on my couch. And something changed me because I didn't expect this Bruce to come out of her mouth. She said, "Daddy, when I grow up, I want to be a police officer." And she said, "You know why? Because I want to stop from stuff not happening, what happened to Breonna. I want to stop for what, if I was a police officer, what happened to you wouldn't have happened to you." And it started my healing process. It started my journey. And I want to say to the city of Louisville, I want to say to Breeway, I want to say to my family that I'm sorry for not being active, but today I am reactive. Thank you.
So there was no way to do everything we've been able to do. Justice comes in many forms. It's been denied and delayed. But none of what we did was without coalition. I want to bring up some coalition partners who have been there since day one. The faith community represented. I want to thank all the people who gave mutual aid that we were able to use to support the people while they were standing and using their rights to fight for justice. It is not easy. Some people couldn't be out there with us because of their positions and their jobs. I happen to be in the perfect place at the right time of my life to be a resource because I worked for a national organization at that time, the Bail Project. When this happened, my team and I, even though things were shut down, we were working remotely and across the street in Justice Square, in the park. We still were bailing people out, not just protesters, everyone. We were continuing to work, and I was honored that I had enough staff that some of them were able to handle the paperwork, and some of us were able to be out there to be a resource. It is important that you know that. Because I worked for a national, they did try to shut me down. They went after my board. They called my director in LA. They called my folks in New York. They called other directors all over the nation. They really came for me. But I told my director, Robin Steinberg, when she called me, I said, "I've carried this work of the Bail Project on my back, and I need you all to stand with me. My team ain't going nowhere, and we're gonna use every resource we got." And she said, "You're right, Shamika. And if I had have worked for a local employer, I wouldn't be in front of you today." While I was out there, I was being garnished for an old hospital bill, but I still was able to get my salary, which even though many of us used our own funding, the fact that I was still able to do the work that I was paid to do, I was honored, so I felt it was my duty to be there. I didn't ask Tamika Palmer for a dime. I asked her blessing that I do this work in her daughter's name. I took her to the Carl and Ann Braden Center. I showed her what we were doing. I showed her what we were bringing together. And she gave me her blessing. And there's no step, no move I made without checking in with that family. So that needs to be said and understood, that the people who supported mutual aid, the medics, and our faith community who locked arms and stood between the police as they tried to charge us many times. I want to ask that representatives from Clout, there should be a representative. I want to ask that the representative that's representing the Inspector General to come after Clout. And then I want to ask the organization where I was also chair, serving as chair, co-chair to the Kentucky Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression, where one of my mentors, Ann Braden, I worked with her. This has always been the work of the Alliance, but we had been newly elected in February of 2020, myself, Dre Dawson, and Tyra Walker. And I was honored that I had to push and fight with my board, but I was honored that we were able to be out there, because I said, if we don't, as one of the oldest civil rights organizations in this state, if we don't stand with these young people, we will see more death, and we will see more people be in jail, and this history will continue to go. Some of those young people were charged with charges like weapons of mass destruction because somebody allegedly threw a firecracker. A young white woman allegedly climbed the fireman's memorial with the flame and poured Gatorade on it and was tackled in less than seconds as they came out of those doors. But while racist militias shot at us, were identified on the roofs,
about it.
nobody came out to save us. Nobody. While people watched from this building, from the Hall of Justice, from the Mayor's Hall, while we were constantly abused and mistreated, nobody came to save us but us. So thank you to all the coalition partners. It's too many to name, but I would like Clout to come up and speak. And then the Inspector General, and then Kentucky Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Reverend Dr. Angela Johnson. I'm the pastor of Grace Hope Presbyterian Church in Smoketown. And this is Rabbi Bob Schlossberg, Rabbi Emeritus and Congregation Advocate Shearing in the Highlands. And we are the co-chairs of Clout's Community, Safety, and Equity Committee. Clout, if you don't know, stands for Citizens of Louisville, Organized and United Together. We are a network of 24 local religious congregations whose mission is to solve community problems by holding systems accountable. And we have been doing just that for more than 30 years. That's right. So following the killing of Breonna Taylor and the resulting community outcry in 2020, we launched our effort to address issues of community safety and equity. Our research process confirmed what many of in our membership have already experienced, and the things that you all have said here today. The fact that various parts of our criminal justice system, the police, the courts, the prosecutors, and corrections, do not provide justice for all citizens. We decided that we need a different kind of policing, a different kind of criminal justice system, and a different intervention with people who are in crisis. So in 2021, we were successful in getting Metro Council to allocate funds to contract with the National Network for Safe Communities, or you'll hear it called NNSC, to come to Louisville to lead a process of what we call truth and transformation. The purpose of the process is to improve police-community relations and to address racial inequities in our criminal justice system. Now, that initiative was delayed by the previous mayoral administration, but in March of 2023, we secured Mayor Greenberg's commitment to complete the process of truth and transformation. And now I'm going to turn it over to Rabbi Schlossberg to share how that has gone over the past year.
remember these words, truth and transformation. You can't have transformation of policing until you first confront the truth.
That's right.
You have to know where we have been in order to build a new way of going forward. Truth and transformation. And the study of the history of policing was part of the truth. It's a part of the truth. The policing described in this study, you must read it. You cannot serve in the justice area without reading this report. It is horrific. I challenge you to read this report and not have tears in your eyes. The first step in truth-telling involved the mayor and the police chief making a statement of harm. They were robust. They are found on the Clout website. They have to be repeated over and over and over again. They can't acknowledge harm enough.
That's right.
They have to repeat these statements. Everyone needs to hear it. But that's not enough. That's just not enough, because you need to let people have a chance to be heard. There's a tremendous amount of pain in this city, in this room. The final step in the truth-telling is moderated listening sessions. And these sessions give the wrong parties a forum to share their experiences directly with police officers and our elected officials. It doesn't matter that this took place years before some of them were born. It doesn't matter that some of them were not responsible. We're all responsible to understand what's taking place, what is taking place, and to bring about change. These listening sessions are the single most important part of the truth, which can lead to a transformation of policing. But if you don't have the truth, you're not going to know what to transform to. Now, in March of 2023, Mayor Greenberg committed before 1,000 people at Clout's Nehemiah Action to a series of moderated community listening sessions. Citizens who have been wronged by the police deserve to be heard by Metro government and the police. These listening sessions await being embraced by our leaders with the same commitment they have for changes legally mandated by the DOJ. Truth and transformation calls for leaders to show courage, conviction, and leadership, such as that represented by Black civil rights pioneer Mary Cloud Bethune. Ms. Bethune was the first Black American to have a statue to represent a state in the U.S. Capitol Statuary Hall. She once said, I quote, "We must have the courage to change old ideas and practices so that we may direct their power toward good ends." This is the very least we owe Breonna Taylor.
Well said.
Let me say good afternoon to all of y'all that are here. But as a representative of the Office of the Inspector General, I was not asked to give a statement on his behalf. However, I have videotaped this entire session, which I'm going to send to him, and I'm sure he will issue a statement based upon what was said.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm K.A. Owens. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Kentucky Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression, along with Dre Dawson and Tyra Walker. This is one of my board members, April Hearn. Just want to thank Shamika Parrish-Wright for bringing us all here together. Shamika, when she came from Cincinnati, she worked for the Kentucky Alliance, was on the board. We like to take some credit for the development of Shamika Parrish-Wright. Thank you. The Alliance is almost 50-year-old civil rights organization. We're part of the legacy of Carl and Ann Braden and the late Carl and Ann Braden. We're happy to be here with Ann Braden's biographer, Kate Fossil. We're part of the legacy of Angela Davis, part of the legacy of Susie Post. Yes, Bob Cunningham, still living, the late Susie Post and the still living Bob Cunningham, the late Tom Moffitt. So the still living Maddie Jones, and so yes, the still living Maddie Jones. So we're happy to be here today, and under Shamika's leadership and Tyra's leadership, we were proud to play a strong role down at 6th and Jefferson. Just as a note, Dre Dawson was one of the individuals that helped disarm Mr. Lopez when he shot Tyler Gerd. So happy to play a strong role. Just want to start off by saying sometimes tragedy leads to opportunity. The tragedy of what happened to Breonna Taylor gave us the opportunity to attempt to create a better police department, an opportunity to change some of the rules that control police behavior, whether it's banning no-knock warrants or creating forms of civilian review or shining a spotlight on the Louisville police that draws the attention of the United States Department of Justice, leading to a consent decree. The good people of Louisville and all over the country rose up and demanded change. The spotlight was on Louisville as it needed to be, as it had to be. Some of the legislators in Frankfurt still don't get it. They claim Louisville was destroyed during the Breonna Taylor protest. Nothing could be further from the truth.
That's right.
Yes, a few windows were broken, a few garbage cans set on fire. What the world saw was the people of Louisville, joined by people from all over the country, standing up and demanding justice for Breonna Taylor. What the world saw was the best of the human spirit right here in Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville destroyed, far from it. There's so many new hotels going up in Louisville that most of the people in Louisville can't even keep track of them. What's the name of all these new hotels? Who owns them? Now, whether that kind of development boom benefits everyone, well, that's a discussion for another day. It was the greatness of the human spirit on display at 6th and Jefferson, in Justice Square Park, day after day, week after week, month after month, that produced limitations on no-knock warrants, a police accountability board, a Department of Justice investigation, and a consent decree. The greatness of the human spirit that we saw at 6th and Jefferson is something every Kentuckian should be proud of, whether they live in Louisville or not.
That's right.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I didn't expect to be sitting over there weeping the way that I did. But sitting here listening to the stories, I'm reminded of the tragedy of 2020, and the feeling of what we experienced came back into my body. And I think that's what my brother D was talking about, when he mentions PTSD. So when we start talking about the rubber bullets, when we start talking about the pepper spray, I feel it. I feel it. I remember what it felt like on my body, in my body. I remember that, and it brings me to tears. Just thinking about 2020 sometimes brings me to tears because it was such a tragic experience. But the one thing that I am grateful for is the one thing that brings me joy. It continues to bring me joy, and that is looking around in this room and seeing the faces of so many people that I had never met before. Because as we came down there to stand against injustice, to demand justice for Breonna Taylor, we also build community. And I stand today because of this community. I continue to keep going because this community has my back. The community that I had before the protest, I lost because they did not believe that I should be taking my energy and putting it into the protest.
Yeah.
And so, Breeway, all the protesters and the organizations have become my family. They are my stepping stone. Breeway. But today I stand and I want to first take a pause, and I want to say to you, Shamika, and also to you, Attica, if y'all see me ever, and I'm out here and I'm not doing something right, I give you full permission to check me, to reach out and tell me how to do it right. I respect you two so much. I study y'all. I'm always on your pages. I'm always watching what you do because I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. All I did was show up. And I learned from you all. I learned from everybody in this room as we continue on in this fight. So thank you all. Thank you, Shamika, for having us today. I am on the board for the Kentucky Alliance, and that is who I am representing today. And what I had prepared to share with you all is that the Kentucky Alliance was founded over 40 years ago for racism, because of racism in Louisville and around the world. But today, I want to speak intellectually and specifically about how that relates to Louisville. The mission of the Kentucky Alliance is to end racism in our communities and in our government. We are not willing to sit aside and continue to watch the things that are happening in our face take place without doing anything. One of the reasons we're here today, in case you don't remember, I'm sure you do, but we're here because Breonna Taylor has not gotten justice. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
4 years ago, she was murdered at the hands of LMPD, and she still has not gotten justice. But there are some other things that has already been mentioned, but I'm still going to review it. Some of the things that I have on my list that we need to call out. Dr. Foster, I got it from your report that I found on the internet. It's easily accessible, and I encourage you all to go and read it, take a look at it, get it in your spirit, so that you understand exactly what is happening in our city. Unlawful street enforcement activities. Unlawful discrimination against Black people. Unlawfully conducting search warrants. And then I added, but not only doing that for all search warrants, but as it pertains to the ones that are uniquely against Black people. There's so much more on that report. I only have a few minutes, so those are the things that I decided to add. But I will end with this. The list that we have comes also from the DOJ report. That DOJ report was dropped a year ago. And there has still been no change and no accountability. 4 years since LMPD murdered Breonna Taylor. And I don't know how many trials we're going to have, but keep having them. Keep having them until justice is served. and I want to say to Chief Jackie Gwen Villeroy, hold your officers accountable. Mayor Greenberg, hold Chief Villeroy accountable. Because the Kentucky Alliance, we will continue to show up, we will continue to stand up, and we will continue to speak up until this battle is won. That's all I can say. Thank you, Shamika. Shamika also shared earlier that I just released the book. I wasn't here to speak about that today, but thank you for that. The book is called Ain't No Justice in This Town, and it's directly telling the truth about what happened during the uprising of 2020 after the death of Breonna Taylor. I talk about protest encounters through my eyes, the things that I experienced and the things that I saw other people experience, and the way people were treated just for exercising their First Amendment rights, how we were treated, met with war tactics, and how we were treated inhumanely. You can find that book at ain'tnojusticeinThisTown.com. Thank you.
All right, we're wrapping up. I know this is, we usually try to keep press conferences an hour, but this was too important not to have all of these voices. As April spoke about, she had time to write a book. Y'all know I'm a problem. I'm a workaholic, and I'm gonna just keep working. Ben is like, somebody gotta tell you a story, Shamika. One day, y'all.
Yeah.
But we do have a website that we set up. It's called WeGetThereTogether.com, and it's the stories of Justice for Breonna Taylor and too many more. And this is it, whether people had songs or memes or they had journal notes. People who never came to the square, people from all over the nation and world, you all can contribute to that. It is still active. You go to WeGetThereTogether.com if you want to have more of the people who are actually there and hearing their voices. We didn't have anybody on the ground to amplify the work of the protesters. The people who came in to help amplify getting justice for Breonna Taylor, they did their job and they put it to the national voices. We've been hyper locally focused because it's still ongoing. Yeah. Like former Representative Scott has said, from our campaigns to our jobs to our families have been impacted by this, and that is a long history. And seeing, we were the same people that went when Trayvon Martin was killed. We went to St. Louis when Mike Brown was killed, to Ferguson. And I literally decided to stay in the park when David McAtee was killed by a bad decision to bring state troopers in and to have them in the West End. We held this protest up here for a reason, to stay in their face, to stay where the center of city government was, and there was no active protesting happening in the West End, and that police were intentionally, and the state police, the state sanctioned violence that happened to David McAtee will never be forgotten. And so when our Governor Beshear opened up his West End office, and I support Di Davidson, who worked her butt off to get him elected in the West End. I told Di I cannot come across the street where the governor helped make a decision to send the state troopers in, and David McAtee died as a result. But I still voted for Beshear. But I could not stand there. So there are so many moving pieces that have always happened, and you don't get that story. So I appreciate the media actually telling better stories, trying to document this, and it's the ongoing work of your work, because they'll believe you before they believe us. And then I want to also lift up the 502 live streamers who made the police. That is here, and they continue their work. Ryan Hart said he couldn't be here, he wanted to be here, but their work made people all over the world. I was talking to people in Italy on conferences, thanks to Pam McMichael and the Poor People's Campaign. I talked to people in Africa, I talked to people in Colorado, and everybody said, how do you all get all those people from all those different backgrounds together? Because we were intentional, We were about building family. We have points of unity, and it was more than what people wanted to tell you. We saved this beautiful city by our work together. We put money in the local businesses and the hotels, more than a 3-mile radius. We are the reason some of them are still standing. We never get credit for that. The downtown business groups, none of those give us credit for the thousands, the hundreds of thousands of dollars we put in city government when everything shut down. But then they attacked us. So, none of this happened without people coming together. I want to use this time, I want to end with the Black male voice, but I want to use this time to bring up our coalition partners. I have Community Control Now, who's talking about the work moving forward. I also have Louisville Showing Up for Racial Justice. I don't know if I have anybody here from the Revolutionary Black Panther Party. Do I? Well, then I would ask Kathleen with NAN to come up too. So let's start with Louisville Showing Up for Racial Justice, then Community Control Now, and then NAN, okay? Thank you.
I'm Noelle Tennis-Golden, representing Louisville Showing Up for Racial Justice. We are an organization who is answering the decades-long call for white people to organize our own in dismantling white supremacy in all its forms. We join Councilwoman Parrish Wright and all the other community-based organizations represented here today to say it is simply unacceptable that the Greenberg administration continues to exclude directly impacted communities in the work to end police violence. Today, on the 4th anniversary of the killing of Breonna Taylor by LMPD, we're still waiting for this mayor to act.
Yep.
And now, because of the work of Dr. Fossil and her team, we know even more ugly truths. Let me rephrase that. Even more ugly truths that we already knew have come to light about the abuse and killing of Black people, people with mental illness, LGBTQ plus individuals, and more. This is about all of us. This is about all of us. And so we're here to join these partners to say enough is enough. No more talk. No more talk. No more studying. No more studying. Today, we demand community inclusion. Today, we demand action. And we demand it now. Now. It is past time. We demand action now.
Thank you.
Power to the people. Mr. Gonzalez, lead executive organizer, Community Control Now. We are a grassroots political organization of the Black radical tradition, which holds the primary objective of democratizing policing, hitting abolition. Okay?
Right.
We express that through the 8-point plan here, but I just want to, this is a bit of a smoking gun here. Please, all citizens of Louisville, please read this. This is the DOJ report. I got on page 80 here, talks about how we replaced the commission with a new civilian review and accountability board and the Office of Inspector General. Real quick, just gonna read the last sentence here. If the board and the Inspector General find problematic practices or misconduct by officers, they can only share investigative findings and make recommendations. The new board's additional investigative authority is a positive step, but limited ability to ensure action and response to its findings raises concerns about whether the board will be able to achieve its objectives. Be able to achieve its objectives. It's like, yo, what's that then? Take from all the other stuff before what we saying.
Talk about it.
Like, let's list it off for here. What Anita Baker said, the scales is sometimes of balance. We gotta, this is about power relationships.
Yes, sir.
Power to the people here, and we the undersigned. Community Control Now. We have an 8-point plan to hold accountability
in a
Tell it,
true
brother,
way.
tell it.
Yeah, so, 8-point plan here. We, the undersigned of Community Control, now want a civilian accountability board that, number 1, has direct elections. Number 2, budget and policy oversight. Number 3, subpoena power. Number 4, the power to hire, the power to fire any officer, including the chief of police.
Yes, sir.
Guilty of gross misconduct. Number 5, we want open investigations. The people should have a say in how internal investigations are handled, not the police themselves. All of these reports and all these stories that told us is start over. We passed that now.
Exactly.
Number 6, we want the scope of misconduct investigations to be expanded. Okay, that includes crimes committed by off-duty officers.
Yes, sir.
All right. I do want to shout out former member of the Kentucky Alliance. This is a plan, and this is a shout out to the Chicago Alliance.
Yes, sir.
Here, we've been fighting for this. I lost count how long we've been fighting for this here. And so this is nothing new. Number 7, we want power at the negotiation table during the next Fraternal Order of Police contract talk.
Yes, sir.
And
That's
then
right.
Number 8, we demand that because of the nature of the oppression, that no law enforcement officer be placed on a civilian board. Okay? Power sees nothing without a demand. It never has and it never will. So we're coming together now, and I feel so full. Like, I remember being in the jail cell during the bridge action. I remember sitting there, I was looking up. Well, I was in the jail cell, looking up. I was like, man, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. So all the people, man, we'll never forget what they did to Breonna, and we're holding that now. So the struggle continues. Thank y'all. Let's get it going.
Right. Power to the people.
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, brothers and sisters.
Good afternoon.
I want to thank you, Shamika, from the bottom of my heart. You, April, you're still my girl. Congratulations on your new book. I can't wait to read it. Dr. Fossil, all of you, Breeway, 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 Breeway. I see you back there, AB. Many of you I refer to as my daughters and my sons. The Kentucky Alliance Against Racism and Political Repression. Growing up as a young activist, it was the best place in the world to learn about activism, anti-violence based on the movement of Angela Davis, Dr. King, Malcolm X. Those are the shoulders that we continue to stand on. At such a time as this, where we still are plagued by the ills of dominant culture, I've heard many individuals talk today about truths. I'm asking for your forgiveness in advance if I say something that may offend dominant culture or black culture. Everyone was mentioned today except John Fitzgerald Johnson. Please forgive me. Grandmaster Jay.
Mm-hmm.
Please forgive me. I'm holding my hand up.
No, you need to speak on it.
He was here also for the fight against the death at the hands of the Louisville Metro Police Department. The word that we can't say loud in this doggone city. I want to thank the Kentucky Alliance. I want to thank the Voice of Louisville. I want to thank the Bishop's Table. I want to thank all of these groups, Shamika Parish, and I'm so congratulations to you for being, I can't even think of anyone more deserving than you to be in that freaking seat. I want to thank the Golden Authors. You know me, The song says, I don't want to study war no more. How much more studying do we got to do? We don't need to beg for what we want. We need to tell them what we need.
That's right.
That goes for the chief. Jackie Villarreal came out here from Atlanta. Came up here from it. Came up, I say forgive me. I'll get me in trouble. We've come a long way. But we still have a long way to go.
Yes, ma'am.
Back in 2014, it was 4 young men. Their name was coined as the misidentified four.
That's right.
They were sitting on the porch of their cousins on 38th and Market Street. They had just come from the Big Four Bridge, minding their own business, having a good time, like everybody else. This dominant culture, female, decided that someone had robbed her at the Big Four Bridge, called the police. They came down to 38th and Market and locked these young men up based on racial profiling. So you say, Dr. Fossil, you need to include that in your research as well. I'm writing this with it. If we're going to do the truth, let's talk about the whole truth. Now, fortunately, these young men were not killed. And it was an illegal, basically, it was similar to an illegal traffic stop. This dominant female called it in to the police dispatch. She said, oh, were they dressed in black? Did they have hoodies on? So forth and so on. They were racially profiled and incarcerated for 4 months. The Kentucky Alliance stood up. And that's when the National Action Network was birthed. So I'm not going to talk too long because I really enjoyed, and I'm fired up.
That's right.
I'm fired up.
That's right.
I'm 69 years old, but I got a lot of steam left in me. And so again, Councilwoman Shamika, April, Kentucky Alliance, if I don't call your name, just know I love you.
Love you more.
And that we're gonna partner together. We're not gonna be divided, we're not gonna be separate, we're not gonna listen to what dominant culture has to say to divide us. No, Breonna Taylor was not a dope dealer.
That's right.
The misidentified four, Terry Miners got on his show and said, oh yeah, they're guilty. Remember K.A.? Terry Miners. Y'all may not repeat all of this because, you know, we know that the producers at the stations tell you what to report, what not to report. We know that. But hopefully I pray that today's a different day.
That's right.
A good day.
Yeah.
I love you all. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. Right now, I'm getting ready to take my seat. John Fitzgerald Johnson, aka Grandmaster J, has had 2 heart attacks at the Ashland Federal Correction Center. We're appealing for his compassionate release. See me after this press conference if you want to know how to send a letter in on his behalf. I love you all, and ain't nothing you can do about it.
That's right. You were gonna get an earful. I'm wrapping up. I want to ask the black men that are in here. I won't put my colleague on Front Street and ask him to speak, but I would like all the black men in here to come up on this podium with me. And this gentleman, we met. I refused to meet with Mayor Fisher and them by myself. I asked liaisons to do that during the protest movement because I wanted to keep my integrity. I don't believe in deals being made and back rooms, but we did have a liaison, Tyra Walker, who met with the police. But one time,
myself, because I'm not co-chair now of the Kentucky Alliance, as KA spoke about, but in 2020 I was, in 2021 I was, and Interim Chief Yvette Gentry wanted to meet with the co-chairs of the Kentucky Alliance, and we met at the Carl and Ann Braden Center. She came in that meeting with another officer, and we just started to exchange what we were seeing on the ground, because they were making decisions at different levels, but what we as protesters dealt with was something totally different. And I don't know if there was a disconnect in the command, but we're meeting young black women, young white women, mixed couples, telling me that they were charged with felonies just for laying on the ground to avoid the chemical weapons that April and Amber talked about earlier. And I know, because I experienced it myself, as those chemical weapons bounced off my dear friend Attica Scott, other folks, and hit me and my children while we were at 6th and Liberty, of all places. So one of the things Yvette Gentry said was, tell your people to stop calling my people, and gave me a stack of unsubstantiated 911 calls. At that time, people were coming to the park. Some people are victims of gun violence and gunshot wounds in Portland and all over, and they were telling us that when they called the police to come, they said, we can't get there because we're dealing with the protesters. We develop our own level of community protection, and these black men that are here, and many that aren't here and can't be here, were a part of that. They took it on themselves to make sure that we were protected, especially us as black women. And I said to our volunteer pro bono attorneys, we gotta save some spaces and protect these black men, because they will continue to be targeted. What Dee said is true. We have black men that were on home arrest, or house arrest, or a home incarceration program for months. They were taking them off. They were, when the racist people came and shot at us, nothing happened. But when we came and folks were open carry, you best believe that they targeted every black man that had an open carry gun, including Councilman DeCory Arthur. We know that they continue this long game, and they use the judicial process to do that. So I said to her, she said, well, our motive is, we ask you to leave, we tell you to leave, and we make you leave. And I said, well, if you're showing up like that, that isn't helping the exchange. The officer that was with her said, they're cussing at us, they're calling us out of our name. I said, people are angry, and it may not have been you that did this thing with Breonna Taylor, but you are a part of the bigger system. And then the last thing she said is, well, one of the things, and it was a good meeting, it's nothing against her, a cop is a cop, a hammer sees nails, but what we talked about is, she said, well, I got hours and hours and hundreds of hours of footage we do, of people in the park doing all kinds of things. I said, so you're not responsible for the bad apples in the police force, but we are responsible for the outliers, or the people who didn't come with our main mission of nonviolent protest. We never told anybody to cause damage. We never participated in damage. The majority of us didn't. In fact, young white boys from Shelby County and other places
Talk about it.
going in the buildings, calling again. So much so that these black men worked with the young people and said, we're not going to let that happen, because they're going to use that to shut us down. And when someone was trying to break a window at Mayor's Hall, these black men and other people chased them off. But you don't hear that, and you don't see that. And I said that this is a microcosm of our city, because when your armed enforcement don't treat people right, you're asking us to be the citizens that they aren't and respect human rights, and you're not respecting ours. And I am glad that Kathleen Clark brought up Grandmaster Jay, and I often told reporters this, to see these black people, and it wasn't just black, but dressed in black, walking up Jefferson. It was a beautiful, bold, and powerful sight. But I knew that the powers to be were going to come after them. They wanted a martyr, and he is a martyr, for allegedly pointing at a federal building with an empty gun because he said he was looking through his flashlight. We know that they buried Quintez Brown. We know that they bury our black men in prisons and jails, and so much controversy. So this gentleman I met, which probably is in that footage, when we met, we had two different approaches at that park. And this man at Injustice Square became my brother. And what happened as Injustice Square as a place to organize and gather, became Breeway under the leadership of these men. So I would like to end with you hearing from this man, Chris Will, from AB, and from Bruce, who is continuing to work with young people at Hope Village and beyond with the Breeway basketball team. And then we'll be done. Thank you.
First of all, I want to say, Tamika Palmer, family, Kenneth Walker, we love you guys. Whatever you need, you know we stepping. I want to start this off with a couple quotes from Malcolm X. He said, stumbling is not falling. There is no better teacher than adversity. You can't separate peace from freedom because no one can be at peace unless he has his freedom. And the most important thing, and one of the quotes that I've seen him say, the media is the most powerful entity on earth.
That's right.
Okay? Martin Luther King said he had a dream.
Yes.
Right? Well, I and myself and we live a nightmare. I live a nightmare where a corrupt city of officials and raging, brutal police force won't apologize or show any accountability for gunning down a black woman and is documented to be true. I live a nightmare where standing against racist sheriffs, getting walked out of my house with guns to the back of my head in front of my children because my landlord said she seen me on TV standing up for the black community and they didn't like it. I live a nightmare where saying Black Lives Matter gets rebutted with All Lives Matter, but no other race is gunned down and broadcasted in this systematic form that we are. I live a nightmare where holding the corrupt city and police force accountable for murdering a black woman in vicious fashion get you targeted and charged to the point where your livelihood is being disrupted and annihilated. I live a nightmare. Hold on, y'all, excuse me. I live a nightmare where blacks with an opinion are seen as the most dangerous weapons on the face of the earth. So we are murdered at will and no one blinks an eye. I live a nightmare where standing up and voicing your disapproval of racism against your community, race, and senseless murder by police officers gets you put on the federal watch list and stopping your pursuit of happiness at a hard stop. I live a nightmare where asking a police officer what his name and his badge number is will get you locked up when it's law for any citizen to be able to ask them to identify themselves at any moment. I live a nightmare where my children ask me every time the door's open when I get ready to leave and do anything that has to do with fight for this community, are the police going to kill you?
I wasn't prepared to speak today. A lot of, it's getting close. See, as I get older, I realize the life of the storyteller, because that's who we are. We are the storytellers. Right. Every month, every day comes to an anniversary, but the anniversary ends up death dates, right? Birthdays, death dates, traumatized, this trauma. I got a quote for you. Martin Luther King said it. The house is on fire. The house is on fire. And that's what we're seeing. After the murder of Breonna Taylor, I always say, and I'm always, even the last time I was like, what did justice for Breonna Taylor look like? But check this out. The justice for Breonna Taylor look like to them, look at the bills they are trying to pass on us.
Right.
They are criminalizing the houseless now.
Yes.
Like my brother D said, it's time to get activated.
That's right.
Our fight is in these walls, Frankfurt.
Yes.
We are coming for you.
That's your neck. Say that.
I be darned. I'm gonna wash my mouth. I be darned that my kids be fighting the same, because my son is 17. You understand? My son is a young man. And I gotta keep reminding myself that I've been out here for 4 years and I'm still fighting charges. Because you gotta take this. I'm taking a trial.
Right.
Because I'm tired of looking at a DOJ report that tells you exactly what we've been saying.
Exactly.
I'm tired of reading reports that said, hey, the DOJ report goes back this long, but this goes back over 100 years.
Yeah.
So I say, where's my reparations, please? What you did to my family, my grandfather, my grandmother, my mother, my father is unacceptable.
Right.
I had a run-in with Brett Hankerson. This is what I failed to realize. Back in the early 2000s, they ran into my sister's house on Preston Highway. See, this is what I failed to realize. We know how corrupt LMPD is. I've been a victim of LMPD. I've been a victim of the court system and stuff. I lost my son. This is what we don't talk about.
Right.
Amen. This is what we don't talk about. I'm a victim all the way around, but we don't speak on it because guess what? I speak for my people in the community, and they're going through the same things. See, I didn't understand until I got out here and start studying and start digging that CPS is no different than LMPD.
There you go.
I said, these systems that they getting paid from is no different than anybody else. I said the whole system is guilty. Yes, it is. And I'm tired. And I'd be darned that these kids gotta keep fighting the same fight that we are fighting. They are keeping the kids up for it. They're taking away trauma care for these kids in schools. They taking away funds to public schools and giving them to charter schools. How is that possible? Because they don't care about Breonna Taylor or any poor person. Take away color. They don't care about you if you ain't got no money.
Right.
So when I realized what I was looking at was so far off from the truth, and I said, here's the truth right here. They say, you're a liar. They say, you all are liars. They gave us a DOJ report. That's what I got to say. Free, Wayne!
Free, Wayne!
That was powerful. I wasn't going to say anything. I'm Coach Bruce, by the way. Councilwoman Shamika, for everything she has done, not only for me, my family, and the city. I'm what pretty much everybody's been talking about in the room, what these kids need. I've been on Breonna every day of my life since May the 28th. I'm still there. It's kind of sad that most people come out when the lights and the cameras come out. And if you take a notice around the room, pretty much everybody is here. And that's how we're going to get here. That's how we're going to get things done. Together.
That's right.
We get there together. I'm going to keep it short and sweet because I'm going to piggyback off of what many people have said in the room. I'm the guy that gets flashbacks. I'm the guy that gets PTSD. I'm the guy that just got out of jail yesterday for being a father to my daughter. I took a stand. I want to thank Breonna Taylor, Miss Tamika, Bianca, her whole family, Kenneth Walker, all these black, strong kings behind me, and any and everybody that's in this room. Because if it weren't for y'all, Breonna Taylor, I wouldn't even be coaching basketball right now. I came up with an idea and started in Injustice Square, aka Breeway, where I bought a basketball rim. A basketball rim, just for us to get along and forget the pain and the trauma that we all been through. I also want to thank everybody before us, Kentucky Alliances. I mean, everybody there, because we learned from y'all.
That's right.
So much. The kids are the future, so we better remember the kids are watching. What we do, they do. So I started a basketball rim. I'm gonna make it short and sweet. I brought a basketball rim to Breeway. The police took it. We brought it back. We got another one. That's how it started. We saved a lot of kids. There was a lot of kids that was lost. I want to say, long live Larry.
He was down there with us every day. I want to apologize to his mother and his family because I started a basketball team called the Breonna Warriors to keep the kids alive, keep the kids off the streets, and it saved a lot of kids. I want to give a shout out to Keyshawn Johnson, who was out there as well. But I just want to end this right now, and we've been doing this for a long time. We know as soon as we leave this room, we already know what's going on. What we don't know is, are we all gonna come together?
We are.
I hope to God that we are.
Amen. Yeah.
I also want to thank God for being free today to see my kids because I was involved in a shootout with my daughter before I got locked up. A lot of people don't even know that. But I want to introduce Dr. Trinidad. He's going to come up and speak and say a couple things. And
Hello, good people. Shout out to the Queen, Councilwoman. I wasn't gonna say nothing, but when she asked you to speak, you got to. So I came in super late, so I don't know what has already been said. So if it's repeat, then it's good reinforcement because we need to hear it anyway. So from the report, right, the executive summary, it says LMPD uses excessive force, including unjustified neck restraints and the unreasonable use of police dogs and tasers. LMPD conducts searches based on invalid warrants. LMPD unlawfully executes search warrants without knocking and announcing. Unlawfully. LMPD unlawfully stops, searches, detains, and arrests people during street enforcement activities, including traffic and pedestrian stops. LMPD unlawfully discriminates against Black people in its enforcement activities. LMPD unlawfully discriminates against Black people in its enforcement activities. LMPD violates the rights of people engaged in protected speech critical of policing. Louisville Metro and LMPD, let me restart that. Louisville Metro and LMPD discriminate against people with behavioral health disabilities when responding to them in crisis. And so I'm here today again, popped up as a personal citizen, Dr. Trinidad Jackson. I'm from St. Louis, and so I've lived through 2 uprisings. And I want to be clear, right? Coming up as a youngin' and having negative interactions and been myself brutalized by the police in St. Louis and been profiled here, going to court, getting shit dismissed, right? Because it was clear that it was frivolous. Growing up, some of us think this is normal, right? This is just a normal, status quo of how we are engaging with society, how we engage with systems, how we engage. NWA said, what? Fuck the police, because that was our engagement with them, right? The trauma, the abuse, the predatory nature of the relationship, that's what it was. It took me to travel all the way to Ghana, West Africa, and to hear from griots, right, about the lineage and the history of resistance, not just in Ghana, but across the world, for me to feel valued and humanized as a Black person. Right? And so when I came back over here to these lands, I said, hell no. I'm no longer by default thinking, right, from an internalized racism perspective that I am less than. Right? And so the fire was lit and the rest was history. But in this conversation, when we talk about policing, it's not, somebody mentioned other systems, right? We gotta keep going back to the root cause. So the U.S. Slave Patrol was created to control the movement of, to terrorize, and to murder black and brown people. And so when I just read the executive summary, and it tells us how black people are treated by the police, what has changed? And so if we look at LMPD's current strategic plan, do we see any corrective measures for these bullets in the executive summary? Right. Right, so that's critical reflection and critical assessment, right? What's currently on the books? Additionally, connecting local politics to state politics. Senate Bill 6, Senate Bill 93, House Bill 9.
HB 5.
House Bill 5, right? They're talking about wiping out quote unquote DEI. That's for face value that says, oh, we want to get rid of considerations and accommodations that are race-based. No, they're attempting to wipe out your fucking critical consciousness that allows y'all kings and you queen to lead in the ways that we're leading. Right? To say, no, what does the policy say? To say, no, gerrymandering is illegal. We about to flip these seats. Right? Literally, they're saying race, sex, religion, social justice activities, and trauma-informed care will not be allowed in K-12 education, but also in post-secondary education. Right? So we have to understand what we're fighting and take it beyond the narrative, the supremacist narratives that they're throwing out there. Again, I showed up just to support, didn't expect to speak, but, but shout out to everybody who was here continuously supporting Councilwoman. I thank you for continuing to bring the streets to these halls, because from Louisville Metro to the Capitol, these are all halls.
And here, we're doctor too, so when the doctor says something, it should mean something, right? Thank you all. I want you all to stay engaged. We are still pushing for the People's Consent Decree. Those links are out there. Please sign up. When we were at Injustice Square, everyone is a leader. There's different levels of leadership, but we all should be leaders. I'm not asking you to give up something that you need to live, but I'm asking you to fight for justice. This is a movement, like Bianca said, it continues. We know that Breonna Taylor was just one of the many, many victims, and we can chew bubble gum and walk. We can be against violence. We can be for a ceasefire, and we can also fight for justice in our local, statewide, and federal streets. I should have had to you all after 2 hours. I'm sorry. I didn't have it all together, but we do, if you stay connected to the Louisville Metro Council District 3, you'll get updates on our activities when that resolution is going to come out, and you'll understand like whatever we need to do. I did not ask you all as media, did you have any questions? But I do have I have the names of everybody that spoke. I will make sure to give that to you if you need it. And before my dearest Kyle kick us out of here, I will take a couple questions that you might want to ask folks.
Shamika, this was actually for you. First of all, appreciate you taking the time for this today. Brett Hankerson had another status hearing today in federal court. How closely are you guys paying attention to this case? It looks like a retrial is set for October.
It's still a part of, and that's one of the things that I talked to Ms. Palmer about. She said, why is it taking so long? She wants justice, not just for the neighbors' walls and the neighbors. She wants to see that something is happening. Yes, we all are monitoring it in different ways. This is a season of both and. We have the work that is ongoing. We're hoping that we get some sort of justice through the federal lens, and we are glad that they are continuing to pursue it. And I think that what we're asking for is something that needs to happen, because there will be no way to make us whole or to really work on the relationships and really moving forward if we don't see some sort of justice happening. And that justice comes in many forms, what you heard here and in this process with Hankerson.
Thank you.
Thank you for saying that too, because I did not know about that update.
It was the same time.
I think it's so interesting that once we announce this, all these other moves, but I've learned you get more done when you don't care who gets credit.
Come on.
Moving the needle.
That's right.
Come on. We will. Keep taking action.
What's up, young man? How you doing there, sir? Not too bad.
It's a new day in Louisville. A day where children play on a brand new playground in Central Park, where new businesses are opening from Barrett Avenue to Shelby Street, from Oak Street to Dixie. Today, more families will move into new, affordable homes, more than at any time in the past decade. And with these investments, they can look forward with confidence to the future. It's a new day in Louisville. And under the leadership of Councilman Baker, our district is filled with hope, progress, and promise. Let's keep the momentum going.
The lights of Kentucky Performing Arts shine on more than our shows. They illuminate a pathway of discovery for all throughout our Commonwealth. A pathway of creativity, confidence, possibility, of brilliance, inspiration, curiosity, and wonder. For 40 years, Kentucky Performing Arts has led a pathway to unite the Commonwealth around the joy of discovering the arts, and will continue to shine this light far into the future.
If you do nothing else.
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 If you do nothing else.